Hey there, everybody. Today we are going to talk about the muscular system, part one. This is just another in the series in anatomy and physiology. So let's go ahead and jump right into it and talk about the muscles. All right, so we have the muscular system here. And as always, if I could please ask you, if you haven't already, to go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons. It is free to subscribe, and it really helps me out to be able to make more and more of these videos for you to enjoy. All right, so let's talk first about the functions of the muscular system. They're pretty straightforward, makes a lot of sense. They work in tandem, of course, with our skeletal system, which I have already done a video, two videos on actually. If you haven't seen those yet, check them out. But the basic functions are movement, obviously, to help our body to stabilize, heat production. Every time the skeletal muscles contract, they produce heat. That's why when we're cold, we shiver. And then just to control movement and control our bodies. There are different types of muscles. The most abundant really being the skeletal muscle, and responsible for a lot of the functions that I just mentioned. However, we also have smooth muscle, which is basically the muscle that is incorporated with most organs and organ systems. They're multi-unit muscles. Also, there's another type of smooth muscle called visceral muscle, and visceral muscle is pretty much the most abundant in the internal organs. And then, of course, there's cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle, of course, is only found in the cardiac system, but is very, very important because that is what is responsible for our heart beating. The way muscles are named are fairly unique. So muscles are named by in several ways, and not all muscles have the name of each of these types of nomenclature, so to speak. So, like, you wouldn't have, we see here that one, two, three, four, five, six, seven different ways to name a muscle doesn't mean that each muscle has seven different names, but they can incorporate more than one type of name. So muscles are named sometimes by function. So what do they do? Examples of those can be the extensor, which extends, the flexor, which brings back, adductor, pronator. We talked about a lot of these terms with the skeletal system. They can be named by their shape. So examples of those are like the trapezius. The trapezius looks like a trapezoid, rhomboid, deltoid. Anytime you have oid, just as a matter of medical term, anytime you have oid on the end of a term, it means like. Position, internal, external, medial, lateral, so towards the middle, towards the outside. It can be possibly where they're positioned. It could be where their location is. Intercostal muscles are between the ribs. Pectoralis muscles are at the pectoral, the chest. Attachment site can be part of the naming. Examples of those are temporalis or zygomaticus. Size, how big or how small are they? Maximus is very large, minimus is small. Brevis is short, longest is long. Okay. And many of these, just like a lot of our other medical terms, are Latin based, just so you're aware. The direction of fibers can add to the naming. Oblique, which is diagonal, rectus, transversus, which goes across. So there's several different ways to name a muscle, and there's no real like set in stone name for a specific muscle because, using four of these or using two of them or only one of them. It's just how they're named. But once you understand these, types of naming, like I said, nomenclature, then it's easier to kind of, once you hear the name, envision what the muscle must look like and possibly where it is. So you can screenshot these. In fact, I would recommend it, or just come back to them later if you need to. Here are the major muscles of the body, front and back. I'm not going to name them all off, but just a few that you're probably very familiar with, like the bicep brachii, the tricep brachii, um, the gastrocnemius, which is that big muscle in the back of the calf. So when you raise up on your toes, it bulges out. The deltoid, of course, is a site for injections for us MAs. The gluteus maximus, the gluteus medius, just to name a few. But you can see how they're all kind of named um, by positioning, by here's your external obliques on your abdomen, right? So oblique because they go in a diagonal fashion, external because they are superficial, not deep. Okay. Here are some names of the muscles of the face and the neck. Okay. Again, I'll give you a second if you want to screenshot those. Muscles of the thorax and the abdomen, so mainly the muscles of the trunk. And again, sometimes these are termed, in this case, like minor and major, because one is a little bit larger and more superficial, and one of them is smaller and deeper, but they are all in the same area, so they are referred to as pectoralis, just a larger out front and a smaller down deep. Here are the muscles of the back. Muscles of the arm. So there you have your trapezius that I mentioned, your deltoid, um, triceps. This is the back view, as this is the front view. Triceps versus biceps. Brachioradialis, because it comes down from the brachialis, which brachii, of course, refers to arm, and connects with the on the radial side of the forearm. So they just kind of squish the words together to make one word because that muscle actually covers both of those areas. You'll see that a lot in naming various parts of the body, really, not just muscles. Here are the muscles of the leg. So you have a front view, a back view, and a side view here. And notice I had mentioned in the arm, it was biceps brachialis, or brachii, sorry, biceps brachii. Most people will refer to those as the bicep. However, the leg has biceps too. So we refer to them as either the brachii, indicating it's in the arm, or in this case, the biceps femoris on the back of the leg here, indicating that it's in the leg. Either way, bicep. And bicep, because of the attachment points, the attachment points there are two, bi meaning two. Here are the attachment and movement terms. So any attachment site where the muscles attach to a site that has a less movable bone, that is called the origin. The attachment site for a more movable bone is then called insertion. And these are usually opposite of one another. Generally, one end to the other of the same muscle will have an origin and an insertion. The prime mover or the agonist is the muscle or the term for the muscle that's responsible for most of the movement. The synergist helps the prime mover by stabilizing the joint usually, and the antagonist opposes the prime mover. So muscles can be both of these depending on what action they're taking. So let's just, for example, the biceps and triceps brachii. So in this instance, when the arm is extending down or moving downward, the tricep is contracting or shortening to pull that bone, to pull everything back or down, while the bicep is relaxing. So in this particular instance, the tricep is the prime mover or the agonist, while the bicep is the antagonist, because it, even though relaxed, will only stretch just so far so you don't hyperextend your arm. Okay. When you raise your hand or bend your forearm, or in this case, flex, right? Then the roles reverse, where the bicep becomes the prime mover and contracts to pull everything up, and the tricep acts as the antagonist and relaxes just to make sure you don't hyperextend the other direction. Okay. So it doesn't mean these terms, antagonist, synergist, and agonist, aren't always specific to one muscle all the time. It depends on what movement is occurring. All right, so that is part one. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in part two. And again, as always, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to my channel. Subscription is free and it really helps me and goes a long way. Thank you so, so much and have a great day. See you in part two.